Violence is a physical force exerted for the purpose of injuring another. The intent is to take out or debilitate an opponent as a desired goal, a part of trying to win. There are three types and purposes of rules, which are: first, constitutive rules. Constitutive rules is a rules that guide play within a specific game. It stipulates game-specific skill, strategies, and technique. It also applies boundaries on player action. Then, it gives structure to sport, helping make the contents fair for all. Constitutive rules is a rules regulate age, weight, skill level, and maturational status of youth in certain league, and it also legislated by sport governing organization. Second, proscriptive rules. It is an expressly forbid specific action, and it is prohibit players from intentionally trying to harm opponent. Third, sportsmanship rules. It is an inherent quality in playing a game in which one is honor bound to follow the spirit and letter of the rules. It also prevents ethically questionable and sometimes violent conduct. Violence, ethical conduct, or not. Certain violence that occur in sport are caused by the athletes that choose to disregard the rules. Athletes may believe in violent behavior if the opponent are engaged in violent behavior. Athletes could be aggressive and lead to violence if the opponent behavior toward the individual is unfair. Athletes also perform violence and hoping that they did not get caught. The athlete does not break the rules but attack in spiritual of the game. Is winning the only things in violence? The influence of winning will affect the game psychologically and physically, change the perception of the opponent as an object rather than people. Violence did not exist when the game is played without rules.
Right, today I'm going to present to you about categorical imperative. First is true sportsperson play to the best of their abilities within the letter and spirit of the rules. Second is seeking to win is acceptable only if the letter and spirit of the rules are followed. Third is an opponent is not the enemy but a worthy athlete deserving to be treated exactly as everyone would wish to be treated. Fourth is retribution is never acceptable regardless of the unfairness or violence of the initial actions. Fifth, if games are not played to intimidation, the ideal purpose is a mutual quest for excellence through equitable and fair competitions. And the last is sportsmanship requires modesty and humility in victory, praise for winners, and self-respect in defeat. Okay, so we will proceed to the first question, which is why violence exists. Okay. Athletes gravitate to sport because they have aggressive tendencies. Social learning theories also speculates that violence occurs because it is modeled, and the rules of the rule enforcers permit it. and because players fail to hold themselves accountable to the spirit of the rules. Okay, so we proceed to the second question, which is why violent behavior is taught. So coaches teach their athletes to act in violent ways in order to gain a competitive edge over opponents. Violent behaviors often are learned from and modeled. The higher the level of competition, the more intense it is pressure exerted by coaches for athletes to perform in violent ways. The third question is why violent behavior is condoned. First, violence continues because some fans enjoy it and the media glamorize it, and it helps athletes to win. Winning is the chief culprit through which violence continues in sport. Competing or striving to perform to the best of one's ability defines sport. Okay, the fourth question is why and how violence is rewarded. Violence pays dividends to those who practice it when it helps in winning games. Violent behavior is used to intimidate the opponents. Sports rules over the years have been liberalized to reward violent behavior. So the last question on how violence affects sports is the impact of violence on study. So there are few impacts of violence on study. First is to reduce the good moral values in the athletes. Second is the meaning of sports erodes. Third is focusing on gaining advantages to win. Fourth is athletes will like to engage with violence as an attraction. And last is affect the society. Right, so as for the recommendation, I would like to recommend a MyRep control are needed to eliminate violence in sport. Second is ban permanently coaches, fans or athletes. Third is restrict the rules of the game. Fourth, gain sportsmanship values and ethics in sports. And last is comprehensive program in moral education.
Sport elimination can be defined as an individual or team is eliminated from the competition. Too often occurs because of loss of funds, a lack of success, and pressures to win. While sport dropout can be defined as a voluntary or involuntary separation from sport for a number of reasons, any of which may be positive or problematic. There are few factors that leading to sport dropout. First, lack of skills. For the youth sport level, results become more important than the performance, and only talented children can play the sport. Many children still never again submit themselves to the humiliation and hurt of not getting selected for a team. For the interscholastic sport level, limit the numbers of girls and boys allowed to participate on their teams. They only focus on highly skilled players and the programs developed only for the elite. Next, for the intercollegiate sport level, thousands of former high school athletes find the skill inferior to those of their peers. They adopt new interests, deciding that no longer enjoy sport competition, and only the highly skilled athletes become collegiate athletes. For the professional sport level, some injured athletes totally withdraw from anything associated with the sport experiences. Media has publicized athletes who squandered their professional earnings and ended up destitute. Second, sport not fun anymore. For the youth sport level, They may leave sport because of other interests and possibly other sports. Lack of success. Lack of positive feedbacks. For the interscholastic sport level, sport in school, usually for extracurricular sport, experiences are diminishing. Sport stop being fun socially and psychologically. While for the intercollegiate sport level, many athletes have to endure all types of physical, verbal, and emotional abuse just so they can compete. Quit their collegiate teams even for academic reasons or because of changing interests are often stigmatized. Next, for the professional sport level, they may experience difficulty in adjusting to being substitutes, seldom playing or losing, diminishing skills, and they realize that they have played their best, wanting to live near the peak of their careers. Third, pressure to win. For the youth sport level, they will feel extreme, unconscionable pressure placed on young athletes by some parents, coaches, fans, and the media. For the interscholastic sport level, when parents perceive that their children have been blessed with exceptional sport talents, they will put pressure on them to succeed. While for the intercollegiate sport level, collegiate coaches who lack a balanced perspective about the role of sport may exert even more pressure on the athletes. And professional sport level, the pressure to win on professional athletes emerge from their role as entertainers. Sport burnout occurs because of too much, too often, and too soon of a supposedly good thing. Refers to those athletes who demonstrate outstanding sports skills or potential at an early age but drop out of sport before achieving at an elite athlete may occur for physical, psychological, and social. There are three types of sport burnout. First, physical burnout. For the youth sport level, they will have overuse syndrome, overtraining, and overspecialization. For the interscholastic sport level, overuse and overtraining never allow their bodies time for rest and recovery. Parents forces sport specialization. While for the intercollegiate sport level, recruited collegiate athletes and expected to fully commit. Self-imposed or coach-imposed expectations. Athletes are often taught to be tough and to play through injuries. And for the professional sport level, they are paid, typically expected to play while injured. And they lie about the seriousness of the injuries, encouraged to use drugs. Second, psychological burnout. Youth sport level. Many young athletes are pressured to improve their past performance and to win. Interscholastic sport level. Psychological pressure to win may increase when adolescents start representing their school. Intercollegiate sport level. College athletes face increasing pressure to perform at the peak of their abilities. They recruit and subsidize to do this. While for the professional sport level, many professional athletes, for psychological reasons, lost their desires or abilities to play. Third, social burnout. Youth sport level. When sport stops being pastime and becomes a passion, social burnout often occurs. Interscholastic sport level. Social isolation traumatizes many young athletes. Some quit sport so they can live like others in their age. intercollegiate sport level. They will enjoy a few free time to interact socially other than their teammates because of their academic schedules. While for the professional sport level, the professional athletes revolve around the training, practice, and competitive schedule. The athletes having less control over their leave than desire.
The situation from the case study was involving the ice hockey players who had used a violin during a game. Adam, coach, has encouraged the ice hockey players to provoke but not get provoked. He asked the players to have a fight with the opponent by using the violence. He said that if it's a part of the game, so from the situation, it could be related with this chapter. As for the term of violence and how violence affects sport. From the chapter, we know violence is a physical force exerted from the purpose of injuring another, and the intent is to take out or debilitate an opponent as a desired goal, a part of trying to win, and this happens when the coach asks the player to do that during the game. The behavior of the coach and players was an aggressive behavior, so we need to be socially acceptable for their exist. And this is how the violence affects sport.
The situation from the case study was involving a young male triathlete who had overtrained and simultaneously become burnt out. The athlete frequently engaged in heavy overload training, often for prolonged periods with little recovery. The situation could be related with this chapter in terms of what is burnout and the effect when the athlete faced the physical burnout. From this chapter, we know that burnout occurs because of too much, too often, and too soon of a supposedly good thing, and this situation happened towards a young male triathlete where he had overtrained in heavy overload training, and at last he has physical burnout.